The apostolic church. Come on. And I'm not talking about the denomination. Bless them. Nothing wrong with them, I love that first, second, third apostolic church. No, there's one apostolic church. And I talked last week, that's the authentic. Right? That's another synonym for apostolic is authentic. Because the reality is if you're not an apostolic church, if you're not a part of the apostolic church, you're not an authentic church. And you might be doing a lot of cool stuff. You might draw a big crowd. And it might be exciting. But it's not shaking anything. It's kind of like the sons of Sceva. These non-apostolic churches. Well, Jesus we know, the demons say, and Paul we know, but you, we don't know you. But when you're an apostolic, you're a true apostolic church, they say, Jesus we know, Paul we know who you are too. And I want us to be one of those that aren't only known by God, but that are known by the darkness because they tremble in fear, knowing that we're walking in our purpose and our calling. So last week, I've titled this again, The Nature of the Apostolic, or I said, The Nature of the Authentic. Apostolic in its root means sent. So I'm talking about the sent church, but sent by who? Sent by God. Jesus is our great apostle. He was sent by the Father. So last week I kind of talked about, we could enter into the newest strategies and the newest strategies on how to grow a church and all, read the books and all of these things. We could do all this stuff and fill the pews. A couple things I'd have to stop doing is I'd have to kind of back off of the truth a little bit. I would we'd have to remove all of any Judaica, any I stand with Israel or the flag. It couldn't be a pronouncement. The menorah back here would certainly have to go. You see where I'm going? The importance of Israel would kind of be a sub issue, if an issue at all. And then people would start coming. We wouldn't really confront too much spiritually. We may be very engaged politically, but spiritually we wouldn't be too concerned. We can engage with these things, right? I could wear some holy jeans, Malaysia, and really cool, shirt jacket. That's my wife coined that phrase, shacket. If I had hair, I could style it up. Maybe we would just find the guy who can speak really good and the really handsome man, right? And put him up here. And then we'd start drawing. I know it's harsh, right? You guys are like, whoa. But one of the key elements of the apostolic church is confrontation. Not afraid to speak the truth. Now I do it in love. I love Jesus. I want to see Yeshua's kingdom. I want to see Jesus come, to be quite honest with you. I'm excited to see him come back, and I'm excited for the marriage. I'm excited for the war when we come back on white horses, clothed in our white garments, the mighty army with Jesus. I'm excited to see him take his rightful throne in Israel and a place called Jerusalem on the hill of Zion. And I'm excited to see his eternal perfect government span the globe. And I'm really excited to see the new heaven and the new earth come to fruition. I'm excited about all those things. So if the Bible says that we can actually hasten those things. That we can actually partner with Jesus. We can partner with God's plan. We can partner with the prophetic words in His Word and actually hasten the day of the return of the Lord. Do you know your Bible says that? That you can actually partner with God. Hasten means to speed up. Now, God is not slow as some count Him to be slow. He's long-suffering. He's patient. And He wants all of His elect to be saved. But if we want to see Jesus come back, we really need to partner with Him. So, last week, the Lord shifted me a little bit. I shared 3 aspects of the apostolic church, but there's really 4. And I talked about the 4th, but I'm going to go back and visit it again. So you guys ready? Point number 1, a real, authentic apostolic church. It's all about the sending. Again, apostolic means sent. In Hebrew, it's shaliach. It means sent. Sent one. So you've got to be sent. Sent by who? Sent by God. The point number 2 of the characteristic of a true apostolic church is the understanding of the importance of Israel and the Jewish people. You can't be authentic. You can't be real without an understanding. Like, listen, God did not break His covenant with Israel. The church did not replace it. He didn't forget about the first group of people. I mean, it should strike fear in your hearts if He did. You should ask the questions the Romans did that inspired Paul to talk about it for 3 chapters. He didn't forsake Israel, did He? Certainly not. Because if He forsook Israel, then that might mean, oh, wretched person that you are and I am, that He'll forsake you too. Don't be arrogant and prideful and think that if He would do it for Israel, that He wouldn't do it for you. Right? So the church didn't replace Israel. So a real apostolic church, a characteristic is they're sent by God. They understand the importance of Israel and the Jewish people. Point number 3 is God's sovereignty. An apostolic believer, an apostolic church understands that whatever situation they're in is because God has either caused them to be, He's caused it, period, one way or the other. Whether it was His direct causing or His relinquishing cover and allowing. So one way or another, whatever situation you're in, an apostolic person understands that whatever situation you're in is because God's allowed it. Think about what Paul said. I've already judged this one, and I give him over to Satan to that his body might be destroyed, that his eternal soul might be saved. So if you're in a situation today and you're fighting and wrestling, maybe it's because God's allowing it to happen because He's more concerned about the salvation of your soul than He is about your comfort. That's something that's a perspective, isn't it? Or am I the only one? Characteristic number 4 is apostolic confrontation. An apostolic church confronts. Speak the truth in love, but speak the truth. If you don't speak the truth, then what are you doing to yourself? If you're not speaking the truth of what you believe, then you're speaking a lie. And your denial of speaking is your lying. And I know that sounds rough, but it's true. Your quiet disagreement is agreement. So I started in Acts chapter 13. We're going to stay in Acts. And I actually want to go back to Acts 13. Are we there? Can we go there, Jackie? Okay. So this is where I started. If you guys don't mind standing for the initial reading of the word here, thank you for honoring God's word. So last week I gave some kind of historical context of this church at Antioch. It ends up becoming at one point the center of the church. The church in Jerusalem kind of gets destroyed in 70 AD, and they get scattered, and Antioch ends up being a hub. But there's a kind of a rift between the Hellenistic Jews and the Palestinian, the Israel Jews. And if you look, after Stephen's martyred, the deacon, who was a Hellenistic Jew, it says that they scattered because of the persecution. They're persecuted by Jewish people, not by Romans of the world, but by Jewish people, and they scattered. But it says that the apostles stayed, because the apostles were more of the line of the Palestinian Jews, because it was Palestine then, that's why I say that. Or the Judean Jews. They were a little more strict. And they fit in with the non-belief. They fit in with the Pharisees a little better, so they didn't get persecuted so much. So Paul, many of you probably didn't know this, but as you know, Paul of Tarsus, you know what Tarsus is considered? Why do you think he was a Roman citizen? Tarsus was actually a Hellenistic city. Now, Paul was more zealous than all for the law, but he had an understanding. He had an understanding. And it's beautiful because God had to drive them out of Jerusalem. Otherwise, they would have stayed there and they would have only witnessed to Jewish people and you wouldn't be here today. Right? So, God has a plan, the fullness of time. So now there were at Antioch in the church that was there prophets and teachers. Barnabas and Simon, who was called Niger, and Lucius of Cyrene, and Manaen, who had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch, and Saul. Please be seated. So I'll break it down a little bit, and I want to go somewhere, because one of my favorite books in the Bible is Leviticus, Kathy. So we're going to go to Leviticus for a moment, and then we'll move forward. I don't want to spend too much time here, but I do want to touch this and kind of recap where we're at, right? The sending. Now, Antioch is in Syria, north of Israel, and there were prophets and teachers there. So we see the offices, the gifts of the Spirit, they're alive, right? Prophets and teachers there. And Barnabas, who was a Judean Jew, if you will, right? The Jerusalem church sent Barnabas off to get Saul. Hey, go get Saul. And then they end up in Antioch. Niger, Simon, who is Niger, this means black man. The Cyrene, that's the Greek. So the point is, we have all these cultures, every nation, tribe, and tongue gathered at the church in Antioch. So it's a multicultural church. Beautiful setting. God said every nation, tribe, and tongue. But he also said to the Jew first and then the Gentile. And that should be the model. So here's the perfect stage. And Saul, who is also called Paul. Not Saul became Paul. That's crazy. He's Paul. That's his Greek name. His Hebrew name is Shaul, Saul. Same guy. He didn't all of a sudden become a Gentile, right? Because he still said, I'm a Jew of Jews, I'm a Pharisee of Pharisees, circumcised on the 8th day, according to the law, blameless. He never stopped being Jewish. He never stopped being Jewish. But here the setting is. They're in this place. Now, while they were ministering to the Lord and fasting, the Holy Spirit said, set apart for me Barnabas and Saul for the work to which I have called them. Now, last week I talked about a lot of people read the book of Acts. Saul gets knocked off of his donkey, horse, whatever it was, right? Blinded. Ananias comes and prays for him and the scales fall off of his eyes. He hears the call that he's called to the nation. He's called as an apostle and he runs and starts his apostleship, starts building churches. But that's not true. He spent time serving at this church in Antioch. Some say 15, some say 17 years. It's kind of hard. We don't have all the records from way back then. But over a decade, this man is serving the church at Antioch. He knew he had a call. He heard about the call right away, but he served underneath as a teacher in this place, Antioch. And then they're all gathered and praying, and then the Holy Spirit speaks to the leadership there, or his fellow believers, and says, set apart Barnabas and Saul for the work which I have called them. Then when they had fasted and prayed, they laid hands on them, and they were sent. They were sent. They laid hands on them, and then they were sent. So let me ask you, who in here is a priest of the Lord? See many hands go up. So I want to go to Leviticus for a minute. I want to read something to you guys about the waiting. I want to read to you about the call of a priest. I love Leviticus. It's about the priesthood. And if you're a priest of the Lord, Leviticus is irrelevant to you, right? We don't look at it necessarily by the details, but we look at it prophetically through a lens of how this relates to us today. So if we go to chapter 8, it won't be up here. Let me get my glasses so I can read. So the first thing, and I know it's in here, and you guys can look at us. Garments. Aaron said, sprinkled 7 times. The Lord said to Moses, the Lord said to Moses, the Lord said to Moses. Well, I'll get there. Let me just share with you. So the first thing that the Lord commands Moses to do is to bring Aaron and his sons to the tent of meetings, to the tabernacle. And then he says, bring all the congregation of Israel to the tabernacle as well. Now, he's about to clothe them in their priestly garments. But they have to come before the tent of meetings, and they have to strip completely naked in front of the whole congregation. 3 million Israelites. And then Moses bathes them. And then they're ready to be clothed in their priestly garment. So, how does this relate to what I just shared? The fasting, the praying, the being together in community, the grinding, the working it out, the fellowship. It takes effort and work to become one voice and one mind to glorify the Father. And it's not until that moment that you can be clothed in your priestly garment. You can't do it sitting at home on your couch by yourself, not fellowshipping with the brethren. You can't do it. You seem like you are just amazing, loving, peaceful when you're by yourself. Live together in community for a minute. I spend a lot of time here, and I spend a lot of time with some of you, and you guys know I rub you because I'm available. I actually heard somebody say, well, I don't think I'd want to go work there because then the people that work there will see who I really am, essentially is what they were saying. And they didn't want that. So Paul and Barnabas and Niger and all of them, they had to sit together and be exposed and come to that place to where they could work it out. And if we want to be the authentic church, the sent church by God, the priest, then we've got to do the same. When we have movie night, you need to be here. When we have fellowship time, it's not about the movie. When we have fellowship time, you need to be here. When we have community time, we need to be here. Yeah, those people get on your nerves. You need it. You need it. That's what brings us to the cross. It's the work of the cross. Deny yourself daily. Pick up the cross and follow him. So it's this time of waiting. It's this being naked. We don't want to be naked in front of each other. And I don't mean physically. Keep your clothes on. I mean emotionally, spiritually. We don't want to be vulnerable. Being vulnerable hurts. I know I'm kind of like odd when it comes to a lot of my leadership style. I'm not going to worry about, sorry, my nose is like cold in here. I'm not trying to put on airs. Some of you might know what that means, some of you might not. I'm not trying to act a certain way or look a certain way or walk a certain way or be this guy or be that guy in front of you and then not when I'm not here. Like, what you see is what you get. Sorry. I know sometimes it's a little hard, but that's what we need. And I need you. I need that in front of you guys to make me think about how I'm acting. I used to wear Jesus hat all the time. I mean, I still do at times. And I would do it because I wanted to be conscious of who I'm representing when I'm out. And so we need this in order, and that's what the priests needed. That's what Aaron and his sons needed, to be naked and embarrassed and shamed. God will call you to embarrassing and shaming things. And you've got to be able to handle it. Do you want to be sent? Do you want to be sent by God? What if God sends you to pray for somebody and they don't get healed? What if God sends you to preach the word to somebody, and I've done it lots of times, and it falls on the ground? It's embarrassing. What if you think you have something powerful to say, and I've done it lots of times, and then you get up and your tongue's tied, and you can't get it out right, and you can't articulate it the way you want to. It's embarrassing, but God's allowing that to happen for His purposes. And if you won't let yourself be naked and bare, if you're too concerned, you're trying to save yourself. You're not denying yourself. You're not following Him. You're all about self-preservation. You're not dead yet. And if you're not dead yet, then Jesus can't live through you. It's not until you're dead that Jesus can live through you. I think of what Paul, he said, every day we're dying, but our dying is bringing life to you. So if you're unwilling to die, you can't be the sent one. You can't walk into the priestly call. And then the waiting. Chapter 9 of Numbers. I encourage you to read 8 and 9. It's beautiful. It's about the priestly calling. At the end of chapter 8, God speaks to Moses and says, now that they're clothed in their priestly garments, you tell them to sit in the tabernacle for 7 days, day and night, and do not move. Otherwise, they'll die. If they don't want to die, then sit. And again, this is that issue I was talking about earlier with time, right? We know what to do with space. Fill it up. But we don't know what to do with time. It's the preparation. It's the sitting and the being prepared. They waited. Paul was being prepared for over a decade, 15, 17 years, almost 20 years. He was being prepared, waiting, knowing the whole time that he had a call. It was spoken to him when the scales fell off of his eyes. He had a radical encounter. And the unfortunate thing is a lot of, especially young guys, I mean, it's by the grace of God I came here, and I sat, Michael. I sat in the seat, and I just sat. I mean, I didn't just sit. I led, evangelism downtown. I served security. I sat in that seat right there for years, just sitting, just carrying a Bible and a shofar for a man of God, just being poured into, just being prepared, being humiliated at times, not. Being humbled. That's what humiliation is, humbled. Being humbled. Sitting, we used to have a white couch out here right when you walked in. I sat on that couch more than once, being humbled and pulling up and it's only by the grace of God. It's not me, it's Him in me. It's Christ in me. It's only the work of the Holy Spirit. Now there is that balance where I had to partner with it. I had to listen to the Lord when he said, no, you don't move. You sit. So there's 7 days sitting. And then on the 8th day, they're ready. Then on the 8th day, they're ready. 7 days, the time of completion. When the time of completion is over, then you're ready. The 8th day, the eternal, right? The infinity. Then they're sent. Then God speaks to Moses and says, okay, tell them to make the sacrifice. They're on. It's time. They're a priest. They sat, they fasted and prayed, and then they laid hands on them. And I love this. And that's one of the things that the priests had to do. The sacrifice. It's called a smika. And it's the word for ordination. And it's the same word. It's exactly what happened to Paul and Barnabas right here. The priests would take their hands on the sacrifice and they would push into the sacrifice, the smika. And what they were doing was identifying and becoming one with that sacrifice. They were imputing their sins into it, all of their stuff, their issues. They were becoming that sacrifice. They were receiving, they were giving. So the receiving and the giving. So Paul and Barnabas sat and they received, and then they had the hands of their leaders and those around them, those teachers and those prophets come and lay hands on them and impart some spiritual gift in them. Stir up the gifts that was given to you by the laying on of hands. Maybe you want to deny the reality of the laying on the hands. It's all through the Word of God. But we've got to sit and wait. The sending. They waited and the time was right. And then they were sent. Where were they sent to? I love this. God calls us to an adventure, Dr. Tom. Are you ready to go? Are you ready to go? I remember when Tabitha and I came to the Lord and some of the things I did in my life and some of my family was like, man, God's calling you to give up all the fun stuff. And I'm like, are you out of your mind? All the fun stuff, He's sending me into these radical places that I get to risk it all at times. Michelle's been with me. She knows. Oh, violence. Let's go, guys. It's an adventure. But I was sent. I didn't go on my own. I was sent. And that's the real. That's the authentic, is the sent. So now I want to move into Acts 17. And we're going to spend some time in Acts 17 because we're going to look at the life of this sent one. The great apostle Paul. Again, 4 characteristics. The sending. He's been sent. He waited until he was sent. The reality of the importance of Israel and the Jewish people. We're going to see a model that Paul, everywhere he went, it says it was his custom. He went to the synagogue first, to the Jew first. And he was rejected and persecuted over and over and over again. And if you're not willing to be naked and bare, embarrassed and shamed, and then sent, if you can't wait, you won't be able to handle that. Because God's calling you to the Jewish people. He wants you to share with them. They're important. Again, who wants Yeshua? Who wants Jesus to come back? He said, you will not see me again until a great number of you Jewish people are saying, Baruch haba Hashem Adonai. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And how will they know? The Apostle Paul, Romans chapter 9, 10, 11, 10. He's literally talking about the importance of Israel. How will they know unless someone is sent? How will they hear unless somebody preaches? Preaches to who? Sent to who? To the Jewish people. Sent to the Gentile church is so missing it. So missing it. Our Great Commission, I say our because I'm a Gentile. Yes, I consider this a Messianic congregation because we worship the Messiah. We celebrate the Jewishness of our faith. The Great Gentile Commission is the Jewish people. You know what the commission to the Jewish people is? To be a light to the nations. We've got a call as a foolish nation. And I know that hurts. But hey, I'd rather be grafted in to the tree than a broken off branch. If the natural branch could be broken off, how much more the wild branch? That's our call. To the Jew first and then the Gentile. But we're missing that. Not so much here. Now when they had traveled through Amphipolis and Apollonia, those places, they came to Thessalonica. I can say that one. Where there was a synagogue of the Jews. And according to Paul's custom, he went to them and for 3 Sabbaths reasoned with them from the Scriptures. Now you might be saying, but that's Paul. But listen, if we were to go back a chapter, you would see that Paul was rejected by the Jews, and it says he understood that he was sent to the Gentiles. But he still understood as an apostolic man, it was to the Jew first and then the Gentile. Does that make sense? I encourage you, read Acts, read it slowly, go by line through it, and you'll see. He reasoned with them from the Scriptures. What Scriptures do you think he reasoned with them from? The New Testament? Probably not. It was from the Tanakh, from the Old Testament, right? Explaining and giving evidence that Christ had to suffer and rise again from the dead, and saying, this Jesus who I am proclaiming to you is the Christ, the anointed one, the Mashiach. And some of them were persuaded and joined Paul and Silas, along with a large number of the God-fearing Greeks and a number of the leading women. They were being effective. Sometimes, I remember the Lord called me to drive Uber and leave my job. I've shared that with some of you. And I was driving Uber, and if you got in my car, I was going to ask if I could pray for you. You were going to hear about Jesus, believe me. Click, click, lock, lock. Let me tell you about Jesus. You can't. And everybody was being blessed. But I went home one day, I said, Tabitha, I think I'm doing this wrong. Because I knew Jesus said that you would be persecuted for his name's sake. I knew it, but I wasn't being persecuted. The next day, I picked this guy up. He got so mad at me, and I was so excited. I dropped him off. Tabitha, guess what? I'm doing it right. So it's like the honeymoon phase. The Lord blesses you. And you'll just left and right, pop, pop, pop. I can't believe this is so easy. This is so easy. No, it doesn't stay easy. It's kind of like marriage. It's easy at first. Or it should be. If it's not, get some counseling. It should take a little while before it gets hard. You just got to keep remembering that you love Jesus. And he loves you. And if you can't love your neighbor, for the sake of your neighbor, love them for Jesus' sake. But the Jews becoming jealous And taking along some wicked men from the marketplace formed a mob and set the city in an uproar. And attacking the house of Jason, they were seeking to bring them out to the people. When they did not find them, they began dragging Jason and some brethren before the city authorities, shouting, "These men who have upset the world have come here also." Have you upset the world? I want to upset the world. I want to upset, it's not that hard. You just got to walk in faith. You got to be willing to speak the truth. And it could be in love. You got to be willing to confront. You got to be willing to go after them. You got to be willing to, your heart's, I was talking to Dr. Tom, and I kind of thought I was an evangelist. But our beloved brother Denny, who's in Cancun, I can be honest with you. I've seen that man shed some serious tears over the lost. I mean, I have a heart, and I want to see them saved, but I can't say that I've shed tears. I haven't wept. And I'm not talking like his family. I'm talking about every lost person that he sees. I've seen him weep over, mourn. Lord, give me that heart. Give me that heart. I mean, I get it, and I understand it, and I go after it. But, man, it's beautiful. But they're drug off. They drag them off. And they were upsetting the world. And Jason has welcomed them, and they all act contrary to the decrees of Caesar, saying that there's another king. So here Jason is, just lifting up. Jason, probably Greek. He's probably not a believer. He's probably opened up his house to the Jewish sent man. And because of that, he's suffering persecution. He just got drug out because he's supporting them. Church, are you willing to be drug out? Are you willing to support? Are you willing to lift them up? Are you willing to face this? If you can't be naked, bare, and ashamed as a priest before our brothers and sisters, before those of us who love each other, you won't be able to handle it. This is where we get to work on it. And if we can't do it here, we can't do it anywhere. And on the other side of that, we need to love each other. We need to extend grace and mercy. And I love, Paul says, no man according to the flesh. Know them according to the Spirit. If we could see like Jesus sees, right? He didn't see Peter as the one. I mean, he knew he would betray him, but he's seen the greater picture of Peter. Man, if we could just see that in each other, and I'm standing here today like, oh, wretched chief of sinners, Michelle. Wretched man that I am. They stirred up the crowd, the city authorities who heard these things, and when they had received a pledge from Jason and others, they released him. This is Paul moving into Berea. So here he was in Thessalonica. He began to minister in the synagogue. They were receiving it. Where did he go to first? Synagogue. To the Jews and the God-fearers. The God-fearers were Gentiles who loved the Lord. They saw him. They loved God, but they didn't want to enter fully into the covenant. Otherwise, they'd be a proselyte. So they weren't down with circumcision and things of the like. But the Jews would let them come and hear the word. But now he's going into Berea. The brethren immediately sent Paul and Silas away by night to Berea. Now, this is an interesting thing. The sovereignty of God, we see it at work here. They didn't fast and pray and send Paul and Silas to Berea. The brethren immediately, out of persecution, to send him away. But Paul, being the apostolic man that he is, believes, oh, I'm in Berea because God's put me here. So there is the sending and the waiting, but there's also the understanding that wherever you are, God's placed you there, He's sovereign, and He's opening up doors. I love this. I heard this last night in a podcast from Jordan Peterson. He said, wherever there's a treasure, there's a dragon. There's always a dragon where the treasure is. But when you go somewhere and there's a dragon, look around because there's a treasure. You go somewhere and there's a dragon, look around because there's a treasure. Paul, the dragon came. He ends up in a place and he knows there's a treasure there, so he starts looking for it. And when they arrived, they went to the synagogue of the Jews. He got persecuted enough that they were coming after him. They wanted to kill him. He leaves that place, goes to another, and where does he go? Most of us go, oh my gosh, I'm not going back there again. Man, that was rough. That couldn't have been the Lord. If it was the Lord, it'd be like butter. If it was the Lord, it would have just been, no. If you're sent, you're going to limp. If you're sent, there's going to be a time where you're going to limp away. You're going to get hurt. You're going to need to cling to Jesus because He sent you as sheep among the wolves. Now these were more noble-minded than those in Thessalonica, for they received the word with great eagerness, examining the Scriptures daily to see whether these things were so. Therefore, many of them believed, along with a number of the prominent Greek women and men. So here we see the blessing again. He goes to the synagogue. What do? They start believing, Elijah. They start receiving Him. But when the Jews of Thessalonica found out that the word of God had been proclaimed by Paul in Berea also, they came there as well, agitating and stirring up the crowds. Then immediately the brethren sent Paul out to go as far as the sea, and Silas and Timothy remained there. Who sent Paul? The brethren. Right here we see there's a sending. But the brethren were probably moved by God because I believe in God's sovereignty. And what He's controlling all things, whether it's His direct control or His allowing things to happen. One way or the other, it's because of God's sovereignty at work. So God directed Paul to Berea, went to the synagogue. Again, number one, sent. Number two, Israel and the Jewish people. We see this modeled by the apostle Paul, the most heavenly minded man that gave us the greatest doctrines of faith and how to walk out our faith, how to interact, how to take communion, how to all these things, how to hold a service, how to operate in the gifts of the Spirit. All of these things. He goes out to the sea, as far as the sea, and Silas and Timothy remained there. I'm almost done. I'm going to probably stop here. I was in a conversation with a guy one time, and he said, I just don't know about these guys that are always, they're just using people to build up their ministry. They're, talking about raising up young people, and that's the way that a lot of young people think today, is they don't want to lift up the arms of somebody else. They want their own thing. They don't want to sit and wait and sit underneath, and they want their own thing. And I told the guy, I said, I'm just thankful for Silas's and Timothy's. I mean, I'm blessed kind of, in my personal life. I'm about the adventure. I like the adventure. I'm down. Let's go, Lord. Let's run. And, I worked at Discovering the Jewish Jesus for 8 years. Got to travel to Africa a bunch. Rabbi was here ministering one time, and he began speaking prophetically and said, God's got more for some of you out there, but you've got to be willing to let go of what you have. And I knew that, like, the Holy Spirit was speaking through him right to me. It was like a punch in the stomach. Whoa. Because I knew exactly what God was saying. I didn't know, the fullness of it. I didn't realize I would be a pastor in Toledo, Ohio. But I knew he was telling me that part of my life was going to end because he had something else for me. And, here I am. It was time for Rabbi to focus on the thing that God had. He had poured into this place for a long time, and it was time for him to go as far as the sea. So, Timothy hung back. So I thank the Lord for Silas's and Timothy's who are willing to hang back. They were sent. They were established by Paul. Paul told them, stay here. And then he would go and do a work somewhere and leave somebody over it. So again, we're going to move forward next week. The sending, the importance of Israel and the Jewish people. I'm telling you guys, that is, it's so important. It's so important. If the Gentile church today would exert 1/8 of the energy that we are in trying to reach the world, to reach Israel and the Jewish people, we probably would have already hastened the day of the return of the Lord. They're called to be a light to the nations. We're called to be a foolish nation. Period, guys. Prophesied all the way back in the Song of Moses. Yeah, you guys are going to deny me, and I'm going to raise up a foolish nation that's going to provoke you to jealousy. Not jealousy by saying the covenant's no longer yours and we've now replaced it, because that ain't working, trust me. Jealousy in the fact that we know your God personally. He's in us. He talks to us and we talk to him. He loves us and we love him, and he loves you and we love you. That's the jealousy, the peace. Understanding God's sovereignty. That's number 3. We have got to know God is sovereign. He is sovereign over all. He is the cause of all things. There is no other cause. Satan is just merely a pawn in his plan. God is sovereign in all of his ways.